Today on The Big Story, PMD riders meet MPs to appeal against ban. The Asia-Pacific Forum Against Drugs. Minister highlights need to counter misinformation. Dr Mahathir says he is not stepping down as Malaysia's Prime Minister until the country's problems are resolved. Hello and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the top news of today and explain why it matters. I'm Kimberly Jiao, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. Electric scooters were banned from footpaths on Tuesday, and PMD riders were not happy with the news. About 30 delivery food riders met Home Affairs and Law Minister K. Shanmugam in Yishun at a Meet the People session on Tuesday. In a Facebook post, Mr. Shanmugam said it was a good civil meeting and he would call for another one. In Nang Mong Keo, more than 50 riders attended a Meet the People session at PM Lee Hsien Loong's Teck Ghee ward. Joining us now to share more is ST journalist Ting Wei. Hello.
Hello.
So you're at one of the sessions, right? Could you tell us how it was?
So actually, I went to the Ang Mo Kio session yesterday night. Then it was actually in Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's ward in Teck Ghee. So what happened was, I think there was totally around 50 food delivery riders there who were on their e-scooters. So basically they just wanted to express their concerns to the MP in the area, PM Lee, but he wasn't there, so there was a grassroots leader that they met with. So in terms of what they were looking for, I think they were asking, trying to express how it's difficult for riders in the Ang Mo Kio area to do their jobs because of a lack of park connectors in that area. They say it's not possible for them to do their jobs. And they also had other requests, such as a grace period, longer grace period instead of 2 months, for them to maybe switch to other jobs, earn enough to pay off their installments, or at least give them more time to try to change the behavior of other users. So it was, there was quite a lot of people, but it was quite cordial in the sense that of the maybe around 50 people, they selected, what I saw was around 4 or 5 representatives, and these representatives went in 2 or 3 groups, and then they spoke to the grassroots leader there. And and they expressed their concerns there.
I see. So what did the grassroots leaders sort of say in response?
So it was a bit vague because when they come out, they didn't want to give too much details. But basically, apparently the grassroots leader told them 2 things. First is to kind of to try to get their message out through the media, to let the media know about what they are going through, how this is affecting them. And second one is to get them to write a consolidated letter to express their concerns instead of going in one group by one group. So from what I understand from the people who were at Ang Mo Kio yesterday, they have already come out with a letter listing their concerns and their suggestions for things that they could do better. So among suggestions that they are going to propose include having a $100 road tax kind of thing, annual road tax, for them to continue using their e-scooters and stuff. And they say they are okay with more regulations to carry, as long as they can continue using their e-scooters. And they will be submitting this letter to Naila at another Meet the People session.
I see.
Yeah.
So actually, you wrote another article about Grab, right? Potentially reaching out to the government to allow riders who've shown responsible riding behaviours to conditionally continue to use their e-scooters. Now, do you think this is likely to happen?
Hard to say, I guess, because I think when the Singapore government does things, I think we don't often see a case where the government backtracks on a policy, because now they can kind of play their cards already. They have put their hand out and say that they are going to ban e-scooters from footpaths. So I think it will make quite a lot of people unhappy, like the pedestrians, if they were to form any kind of reversal.
Right.
But on the other hand, it could still be something that could be considered, no matter, even though it's a small chance, because I think the pushback from food delivery riders have been quite strong, because I heard that tonight there are at least 6 Meet the People sessions where riders are going to go in groups to meet the MPs, because at the end of the day, it's when you take away people's rice bowls, they are going to be quite upset, quite worried. And then I think even though pedestrians have concerns, the concerns of these riders would need to be addressed. Either maybe you give them new jobs, or as they suggested, give them more time to kind of adapt. But in terms of exemption, I talked to Tampines GRC MP Desmond Chew yesterday. So he mentioned that some of the riders have suggested a special license for food delivery riders to him also. And he thinks it's a viable idea that could be studied.
Okay.
So, let's see where they go from here. I think he'll bring it up, and then maybe authorities will discuss, and then we'll find out whether it works.
I see. So it remains to be seen. Thanks for taking the time out to share more with us, Ting Wei. And if you'd like more on the story as it continues to unfold, do stay tuned to straitstimes.com. Now, the Asia-Pacific Forum Against Drugs was held this morning. The conference was co-organised by the World Federation Against Drugs and National Council Against Drug Abuse. Josephine Teo, Minister for Manpower and Second Minister for Home Affairs, said at the conference that the need to counter misinformation about cannabis is critical. She said that the marijuana legalization campaigns overseas are from big companies pushing for their own corporate agendas. Since legalizing the drug, traffic deaths in Colorado involving motorists who tested positive for cannabis have more than doubled from 2013 to 2017. With me now is Senior Correspondent Zaihan Muhammad Yusuf. Hi, Zaihan.
Thank you.
Sorry to bust out your full name there. So what kind of misinformation are we talking about here?
I think today we learned at the conference that big corporations are willing to pass the message to say that cannabis, recreational cannabis use is safe. It is a cure for ailments, and it is basically a miracle drug, which the groups today that met, their message is to say that no, we do not believe in this. We want to debunk it.
Okay.
You know?
So what what conclusions did they sort of come to?
Basically by not saying anything or not doing any messaging against big corporations, we are losing out. As you know, the youths of today, they are more liberal in their thinking. Yeah, so they do not think that maybe marijuana usage, recreational usage will affect anything. But there have been studies which was shared with the media and the audience at the conference today, showing that adolescents who use cannabis will have developmental problems, their brains in terms of retention, memory loss, and there are other studies to show psychosis.
I see.
Yes.
So what is Singapore's stance on this?
Basically, no to recreational drugs. That has been always clear. But we have to make the distinction. This word medical cannabis has always been used. So people would think that if I smoke grass, weed, it should cure my ailments. But that's not our stand. In Singapore, it's different. You would have to, it is a component of cannabis itself, this cannabinoids, where it has to go through scientific testing, and the person who's suffering from an ailment, like for example epilepsy, seizures or so on, someone would have to certify it. It is not over the counter. It has to be tested, clinically tested, you see.
I see.
So you can't just take weed from anywhere and to say that, I have lung problems and I need to ease myself with marijuana. No, it doesn't work that way.
So there's a distinct difference.
Yes.
Difference there. I see. So, well, thanks, Zaihan, for sharing more with us. And if you'd like more on this story, do head on to our website, that's straitstimes.com. And now on to What's Trending, where Dylan is going to take us to top stories of today. Dylan?
Thanks, Kim. It's time to top trending on What's Trending.
Thank you.
For our first story, two drivers in the CBD had a rough start to their Wednesday morning when they collided along Robinson Road, which caused the car to flip on its side. Amazingly, both men escaped with minor injuries, with the car driver climbing out of his car on his own. The other driver, who police said was conscious, was taken to SGH and is reportedly doing okay. Rapper T.I. has sparked outrage after revealing that he forces his 18-year-old daughter to undergo virginity tests, which began after her 16th birthday. He revealed that his daughter, Deja Harris, was required to sign a waiver which allowed the doctor to share the results with him. Many were not in favor of T.I.'s unique parenting style. A Twitter account appearing to belong to Miss Harris liked several tweets that condemned the rapper's behavior, including one that labelled the move as disgusting, controlling, and possessive. I guess when you're T.I., you really can have whatever you like. Now, speaking of things I like, movies. Famous for Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean, or at least a CGI recreation of the long-dead actor, will star in Vietnam War movie Finding Jack. Dean died at the age of 24 in 1955, about a month before the Vietnam War started. While this move has the blessing of Dean's family, people are outraged at the idea of using the actor's likeness. The film's co-director, Anton Ernst, said that they had searched high and low for the perfect character to portray the role of Rogan and decided on James Dean after months of research. If you have a view on this or any of what's trending today, let us know in the comments section below. And if you've seen a story worth sharing, tag us at @STBigStory. Back to you, Kim.
Thanks, Dylan. Moving on to our last story, in an interview with Financial Times, Dr Mahathir Mohamad said he will not step down as Malaysia's Prime Minister until he has resolved the problems facing the country. Dr Mahathir was sworn in as Prime Minister in May of 2018. He mentioned that there was no actual date or time specified for him to step down and that the actual time he will remain depends on the problems that Malaysia faces. He said that he needed to be careful in appointing a successor due to his previous mistakes. And joining me now via Skype to talk about this is Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teo. Hi Shannon.
Hi, how you doing?
So the succession plan was initially said to be that Dr Mahathir is going to be Premier for 2 years before Anwar Ibrahim is going to take on the role, right? And in September, Dr Mahathir indicated that it's going to be 3 years. So now, has anything changed with this statement coming out?
Well, in fact, nothing's changed. I said maybe people understand the situation a bit better. It was always talked about as 2 years, and no one bothered to correct this misconception because maybe they didn't think that they'll actually win last year. But now that they've won, what we know is that there is no real agreement about the timeline. Only people close and associated to Anwar has talked about 2 years. Mahathir has never did any such thing. And there's no agreement about the timeline. So where we are right now is just Mahathir saying what is true, that when the succession happens is for the coalition to decide and there's nothing set in stone. This of course is not helped because Anwar in his interviews even up to now keeps saying that he expects to take over in May 2020. So that continues to muddy the waters.
I see. So he also actually mentioned in his statement, right, this plan to resolve certain problems. So his plan to resolve certain problems, if I may name these problems, is namely sort of recovering the billions lost through 1MDB, finding and trying fugitive businessman Joe Low, and stamping out corruption in the public service, right? And it seems like quite a lot, right? Even for just one Prime Minister term?
Well, it's not limited to just that. I mean, he was talking about the items related to corruption, but there's a lot of other things that he's thinking about fixing. Financial problems, national debt, the state of the GLCs. There's a whole list of it. And this is maybe what you might call the central deceit, because these problems are all moving targets. The only definite target here is getting Jolo back and charging him in court. That's a definite target. But even things like trying to claim back all the 1MDB money, it really depends on how you're doing your accounting. What do you mean by all the money? Because some of the money was spent on things like the Tun Raja Exchange, the Bandar Malaysia project, and that's still on the ground. That's there. So it really depends on how you're calculating it. And the idea of stamping out corruption, it's impossible, right? There's no such thing as zero corruption. If not, we wouldn't need anti-corruption laws. So what these are really just signals, hints, if you might, that what Mahathir is saying is, I'll step down when I'm good and ready, when I think the country is on the track that I think is the right track. And no one will tell me otherwise. I decide when I go, not Anwar, not anyone else. That's the signal he's trying to give out. Of course, Anwar and many other people would disagree with this notion that Mahathir gets to decide the timeline alone.
I see. Well, thanks for your insight and also for taking the time out to join us today, Shannon. And those are the top stories of the day. For more news and videos, do head on to our website at straitstimes.com. And this has been Kimberly. Thank you for watching The Big Story, and we will see you tomorrow.